What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phase One podcast. So happy to be here today. I'm with my friend Allie. Allie, thanks for hanging out with me. How are ya?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we connected on Instagram probably a month ago or so. You reached out to me because you listened to the podcast that I was privileged to be on, the One More Hour podcast. And she's just such a sweet human. That was such a nice conversation for me because I got to share where I'm at in my life right now, and that meant a lot to me. So it sounds like it resonated with you, and you were kind enough to reach out and share some words of encouragement, and that meant a lot to me because sometimes I'm just going and I don't know if what I'm doing is adding any value to anybody's life, and I'm feeling like I'm just in a rut. But you reached out and said that it resonated with you. So that was very encouraging for me. So I appreciate you doing that. And yeah, since then we just had some really genuine organic conversations. We had a meet and greet last week. Usually they go about 30 minutes, and I think we were talking for about 45, and we had to cut it short because life was happening. But I'm confident that we would have kept going. It just was a good, healthy conversation, and it made my day a lot better. So here we are, 1 week later, and we're just pushing play on this crazy thing we're all doing called life. So, for those of you just tuning in for the first time, what we talk about on this podcast, three different things, and they're essentially the pillars of this podcast. And what we want to focus on is number one, our stories. And the reason that we talk about our stories, as challenging as it may be, is because it gives us an opportunity as humans to talk about things that, number one, they can be challenging, but they give us an opportunity to relate with one another on a fundamental human level. And for me, it's nice knowing, like, okay, I'm not alone in the struggle of life. So that's why I share my story, and I hope that it resonates with Allie and whoever else is listening. And then we get into our mission, and our mission essentially is reflecting on what we've been through in life and looking at how it's shaped us today, and how the hurt that we've been through, has it brought us healing? The pain that we've gone through, has it given us purpose? The suffering that we've gone through, is it giving us an opportunity to serve others through what we've been? And then the last thing, which really is going to be a theme throughout the conversation, is our message. And really all that is words of encouragement for the hurting human. And if you've heard this before, you've heard me say many, many times that we're all hurting in some way. So this mission, this podcast is dedicated to the hurting human. And in my opinion, we're all hurting in some way. But there's always hope with whatever we're going through in life. So with that, appreciate you spending a little bit of life with me. I know that it can be a challenge for us to sit and reflect on the life that we've lived, and to share those pivotal moments in our life that brought us, or I like to say forged us, to where we're at right now. So I appreciate your courage and willingness to talk with me, and we're just gonna take it smooth. We'll see how it goes. Like, no crazy pressure, because I do understand it could be heavy, but I'm here for it. I got I was telling you before, I got coffee, water, my protein shake. I'm ready to rock. So we're just going to hang out and be friends and chat, and hope that whoever is listening finds some value from our conversation. But before we get into it, you were saying you just finished your run this morning before we got on the podcast.
Yes,
Nice. And you got some pretty big things coming up, don't you?
I do. I'll be doing the Elm Creek Backyard Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
That's held in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on the 24th.
Mm,
So short, just shy of 2 weeks.
nice. And for those who aren't familiar with the Backyard Ultra, do you want to give just the highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so traditionally, there is a 4.1 mile loop that happens every hour on the hour in a specific location, and you run that loop until you tap out or don't make it back to the circle. Um, so the goal is that you give yourself enough time and keep a steady pace so that you can get back to your camp and eat some food, use the bathroom, and then go back out again, standing on the line with everybody else. Um, it's a true togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really special event. My first time was last year,
Mm-hmm.
and just seemed right.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it's a special event, and something that popped in my head was it's like a special kind of suffering with people. It's so interesting and unique because,
Oh yeah.
gosh, I've been blessed to do three of the backyard ultras, and sometimes there's 20 people, sometimes there's like 100, but it's just so it's so unique and interesting and impactful to stand the line at the beginning. I don't know anyone that I'm standing next to, and as the hours continue, it's not like you just kind of get to know somebody. It's like you really get to know somebody.
You
And
get
I,
to watch them go
yeah,
through something really
mhm,
unique.
yeah. Well, because we all stand the line for a reason. You know, I really haven't met anyone who's like, oh, I was super bored. I didn't really have anything to do. So I kind of just wanted to spend a bunch of money and show up for this backyard ultra or any kind of ultra. Like, there's always there's always a reason.
There's depths to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I've just made so many sweet, just awesome connections with people, and we still talk. We still talk to this day. You know, a few years later, I don't remember like when the first one. I don't know. Had to have been a few years, but yeah, I still talk to them to this day, and we check in, and it's not like surface level chats. It's like, hey, man, like, how's your soul? How's everything going? You know. So yeah, that's just something that I didn't expect. I didn't know that was going to happen when I started running. I think I was in this like performance based mindset, and I didn't really know. I didn't know that there was a community in ultra
Right.
running. I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't
And
think
it's
a lot of us do until we find it finally.
yeah, yeah. It's so weird because I show up and terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are better than me. And then once we get going, it's like, oh, we're all hurting. Oh, this hurts for everybody, all the same. People are just hurting at different paces. Like, oh, okay, well, that makes me feel a little better. And I really haven't had a lot of negative interactions, like any. I haven't had any negative
No.
interactions with people on the trail. I've never like I know that there's competition, sure, but it's always been internal. And even the
Yeah.
person in the front has always been encouraging too, like especially if it's a loop or something like or an out and back or something. It's cool to pass. I'm thinking of a race I did a few summers ago, and there were like I was 100 miles behind the first place group,
Wow.
and they passed and were just encouraging. It was like, "Hey man, great
Yeah.
job," and I wasn't like mad about it. I was happy for them, and they were happy for me. We're all on this thing together. They just, they were at a different pace, but yeah,
There's a
I
lot of
just
unity.
yeah, I just love the ultra community. I had no idea that it existed. I didn't know how encouraging it would be, and also people that don't even run. especially at a backyard ultra, like the crew support is
Yeah.
essential. It's so essential, and it doesn't matter. Like even if people don't run at all and they show up to these things, like they're showing up, and it's just
Yeah.
so cool. Like everyone's finding value from it.
Yeah. It's um Jackie just did another episode and it was with Nick, who is the race director of the Elm Creek backyard.
Oh, cool.
And he said that when he was creating this, that he just wanted a giant family friendly picnic.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that was like exactly what I saw when I was experiencing it. It was just like all these people and kids with their tents set up and cooking food
Mm,
and having fires,
mhm.
and it was just this like beautiful organism all working together, and like everyone just like cheering and loving and caring and helpful. It was just like, man, I'm in like the best place ever. This
Yeah.
is, I want to do this all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so sweet. And you and I were talking earlier, the BPN going more ultra going on right now. Last I checked, hour, 2 hours ago,
Yeah.
it's down to two of them. And gosh, like so much respect. It just makes me so emotional, like knowing like the fortitude that they have to keep going, and they're not alone. They're supporting each other, and they can only reach their goal if,
With each other.
yeah, with each other. And I have no idea what kind of conversations they're having together, but I don't know. Like all I know is that they're not alone and they're going one more, and it's just so cool to see.
It's so awesome. It's a course record.
Yeah.
That's,
And it's only the second year they did it, but
oh, is
I mean,
it?
they're, yeah, yeah. Well, Nick Bear, he's the founder of BPN, Bear Performance Nutrition, and I've been listening to his podcast for a few years. And gosh, like when I was in when I was in the most hopeless stage or season of my life, where I really was just in a state of despair, that's when I heard of him, and I started listening to him, and I was just so inspired. I think the first podcast I listened to with him was with Chad Wright. I don't know if you heard of him.
I haven't.
Oh, he's just an awesome human. I've never met him in person, but that would be a dream. He's just he's a really passionate human. He was a Navy SEAL for some time, and got out, and now he's serving by unconventional methods. It's really cool. He's got a project called 3 of 7, but his family and his friends, his team, they do training missions. They teach like how to use a weapon, things like that. But they also started putting on their own ultras and their own events, and they've got a really awesome podcast. Anyways, they were talking together, and they were talking about like patience, and that was pivotal for me because at that time of my life, I think I was 29, maybe 30. I'm 34 now, but I was like, patience? What are you talking about? Why would I need to be patient when I could just do it now or get it now, So that was really eye-opening, and applying patience to ultras is just foundational for me to survive, not even to be successful. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah.
So patience is a prerequisite for sure, and it's so hard. It's this very fine line of like, I'm either patient or I'm not. I have to work for it. I have to be grounded, and like Jackie talks about on her podcast, and so many other people who run, and I'm sure you can speak to it too. Like how we be present, and how we practice patience is allowing ourselves just like not get overwhelmed by the big picture. Sometimes it's just being like, I don't even really think too hard about where I'm at. I just be, if that makes sense. Like
it makes more sense than you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like the simplicity of our beings. It's like
Mm-hmm.
learning how to just be in a moment
Mm-hmm.
and just be still.
Yeah, and I feel like I can be still while I'm moving, if that makes sense. Like I
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like,
very much so. I mean, it's like almost an active meditation.
yeah, yeah.
And it's just like the simplicity of it. It's like almost like you're allowing your brain to just kind of shut off in a way. It's still doing
Mm-hmm.
its job, but it's not overwhelming you so that your body can just like move through it
Mm-hmm.
more than your emotional piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I feel like I guess I think of it as holistic. Like running is much more than just a physical act. It also is emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual for me. And I heard so many times people talk about like getting to this runner's high, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like in my early days, I was like, let's try this. Let's get to this runner's high. And then I would experience it for a time, and I really just came to learn that really is just this grounded moment or grounded state of just being. I just felt like everything's connecting and everything's in sync. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like everything is just it just is. I don't know. It's kind of tricky. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's a beautiful feeling. It's just peaceful.
I mean, I would relate that to the natural world. Like that's how I've always looked at it, is exactly how you just explained it, and that's how I've always experienced it. And especially with being outside, like being reconnected with nature and your experience out there, because it's like it brings it back down to like the simplicity. It brings it this back down to like, okay, where am I? Where do I need to be? Where do I sleep? What do I eat? And where's my water? It's just like
Mm-hmm.
three essential survival pieces, right? And like everything else doesn't really matter.
Mm.
It's just like getting to where you need to be, being able, somewhere safe to sleep, and then eating your food, making sure you're drinking water. And it's like those are just kind of the essentials of like resources to just make sure that you're like, well, if I have those things, I can just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else just kind of falls in line.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I relate to that so much. A few years ago, I did a race, and well, it was more of an endurance run than a race. But as time went on, that's exactly like what you're saying is exactly what I started to really understand and apply. I was like, well, let me just focus on meeting basic needs of survival. I need to get somewhere, so I have to make sure that I can move forward. How do I do that? Well, I have to take care of myself by drinking water and electrolytes. I have food, so I need to make sure I'm eating it and moving. And then every once in a while, I would rest. And sometimes, like the power of a trail nap, maybe it's 2 minutes. It's just the best. But
Absolutely.
once I started applying those three, I guess like practices, like focusing on the basic needs, I got stronger. I really did. I got stronger as the run continued, and it was such a beautiful experience because there was a time in that run where I just didn't want to do it anymore. Which is I'm sure we all can relate. Like I love running because it relates to life in so many ways. Like there's so
Yeah.
many responsibilities that I don't actually want to accomplish at sometimes, but I have to do it. So when I was in the middle of this run, I was like, I just don't really want to do it anymore. And I tried to miss the cutoff. I went and slept off trail. I didn't set an alarm, and I was like, I'll just sleep through the night, and then I'll accidentally, unquote, miss the cutoff.
You
And
tricked
then
yourself.
yeah, yeah. And then I heard someone crying on the trail. They were, I could tell they were further away and we were about to cross paths, and they just were crying so hard. And so I got up and I got on the trail, and it's middle of the night. I can't see anything. And all I saw was a yellow jacket. So that's all I know. And I went up to this girl and her friend who was pacing her, and I just asked, like, can I give you a hug? Would you like a hug? She said yes. And I gave her a hug, this girl in a yellow puffy jacket. And like, her tears were so heavy. I felt them on my feet. I felt the weight of her tears hit my feet. And that kind of snapped me out of whatever I was in. And I was like, this is where you're at. You chose to be here, so just be. So I was like, okay, drink water, move, eat, keep going. And it was a beautiful experience. Yeah, I, I learned that, like, once I kind of got out of my head of thinking so much about the discomfort that I was in and just like embracing it, I kind of just was able to live with it and then move, you know. But it was so uncomfortable at sometimes. I was halfway through, my feet were so tender and they hurt so bad. I just laid on the ground and I was like, how can I don't even know how I can move forward. I don't even know how to move one foot in front of me, and I'm only halfway. And I was like, you just got to get up and you got to keep going, you know? Kind of like we were talking last week. I was sharing with you that sometimes, like, I hear people say, you don't have a choice. You just got to do X. For me, I'm like, well, actually, I feel like I do always have a choice. I do. Like, I've quit so many things in my life that I worked hard for because I didn't want to do it anymore. So I always have a choice, you know. I have a choice to be a present husband. I have a choice to be a present father of two. I can choose to leave. That would be so painful for my family. But like, that's what I experienced is my dad leaving when I was young. And you know, now I'm on my second marriage, and I don't want it to dissolve, you know. So I think about being present and just being, you know. I think of life as like this trail. And so, painting parallels from the run I was just talking about, like, we get to these dark moments, these low points, but you know, sometimes it's someone else's needs that can pivot us and encourage us to
Absolutely.
keep going, you know, even for ourselves. And you know, beautiful things can happen from that. So yeah, thanks for hearing my spiels and my, you know, my thoughts. We're coming up 24 minutes in, and I'd like to kind of pivot a little bit into like our stories. You know, like, we've been talking about running and the joy of running and the experiences that we have and the value that's added. But I like to reflect on what got me into that atmosphere, that environment of ultra running. And I shared a little bit about it earlier, but yeah, I was in my first marriage, and it was on the hard decline, and was experiencing a sense of hopelessness, and my soul was just in torment. And I really just, gosh, I'm so far forward from where I was back then. Sometimes it's even hard to say, because I'm not hurting like I was back then. So it's almost foreign for me to say what I was experiencing back then, because it just feels like a different person. But it's part of my life. It's part of my story. So Yeah, when my first daughter was born, she's now 6. She just celebrated her birthday last week. A few months after she was born, I just started feeling so much pressure and overwhelm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to be a good dad? Like, my dad left me. Like, how can I sustain, like, showing up as a dad? I don't know if I can do it. And the marriage wasn't doing well. I was like, well, shoot, am I going to, like, leave as a husband? What's going on? And just feeling so much pressure. And then we moved to Texas and just didn't really have a really strong community that I felt, and just felt lost and kind of isolated. But this is just my side. There's always two sides. So I just experienced hopelessness and started having suicidal ideations, not to the point of planning, but my friend was talking about selling his gun, and I just had this idea. I was like, oh, really? Like, huh. I just had this thought, and then I started fantasizing and just had these suicidal ideations to the point of like finding hope, knowing, oh, okay, well, my daughter, hopefully, my wife can find someone else, and that man can help raise my child, and she'll be okay. She doesn't need me as her dad. And yeah, I would just fantasize about ways that I could end my life, and that brought me hope. I would just smile at the end of the night knowing, okay, cool, like there's a way out. That was the way out for me at that time. And I'd have conversations with my family, and they're like, dude, like, I don't know who you are anymore. And I felt the same. I didn't know who I was either. So yeah, it's crazy. That is the time where I heard of what we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation, Nick Bear and Chad Wright, and I listened to their conversation on Nick Bear's podcast, and they talked about patience. And that's when they were also talking about ultra running. So I started thinking about that, and at the same time, my friends invited me to run a 50-mile ultra marathon through North Texas. Palo Duro was the race, and that was the beginning of the journey. And I held on to ultra as like a lifeline. They were the only thing that brought me hope. Sometime later, my wife and I separated. They left Texas, and I was on my own, and starting to see this side of me that, well, I started to recognize, like, I'm not accountable to them at this current moment. I need to take care of me. So ultras were this survival strategy. Like, let me humble myself. Let me learn things about myself. Let me shed this shame and shed all this stuff that I've got, and just let me start over. Let me be brand new. Because that's what I loved about ultras, is you get to the end. I thought you get to the end of your capabilities and then you start over. But what I've learned is that you get to the edge of your capabilities. And when you get to the edge of what you think you're capable of is when you find out how strong you've always been. And so that brought me hope. I started finding hope in new ways. But at the same time, I had some serious battles internally, with this loss of accountability to my family. I started derailing and doing things that really didn't add value to my life or other people's lives. And it's a shameful, dark part of my past that is dead now. That's a dead version of me, and I'm a healthier person now. But there was a lot of internal struggle, and ultras were that avenue towards hope. And yeah, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm so grateful for God intervening in my life, and I believe that He's like working in me and through me. And so I think God is in the details with that for sure. But yeah, now here I am. I'm on I don't know if I would call it a different path. I think that we're born with a trail that's designed for us, and I think it's going to take us different places. I think I'm where I need to be in serving my family and operating in the garage every day so I can be close to the family. Like that brings me so much joy. But I'm so grateful for all the lessons that I learned through ultras and being able to give those lessons to my kiddos and also hold on to those as these little confidence tokens, and knowing that when things get a little tough, like I can reach back into my back pocket knowing, hey, like you did a thing that you didn't want to do, you saw it through and you survived and you're still breathing, so keep on going. So that kind of pivots me to the mission that I'm on right now. But I'd like to offer an invitation to you to share a little bit about your story and some pivotal moments that you've experienced that kind of brought you into this ultra journey.
Yeah,
And feel free
absolutely.
to take your time.
Um, well, me and my partner were probably 10 years ago, started traveling the country together. Um, we would leave our jobs and jump in our tiny little car and pack it full of our camping gear, and we would go state to state and forest to forest and live in the woods and hike endlessly and sleep outside every single night. Um, and once we started doing that, I just never wanted to stop. Um, on our first year, it was only 2 months, and then a few years later, it grew into 6 months, and then a few years later, it grew into a year. And then the last time was about 2.5 years ago, and we left thinking we were never gonna come back to our city life. We bought property up on the edge of the Boundary Waters on the Gunflint and built our little dream cabin that's off grid and kind of built this story of wanting to live up there and not having to deal with being down here and working an everyday job, and we could just live in the woods forever and everything would be lovely. Um, but that's not how it works. I think you have to build those things into your life regularly to be able to experience them all the time instead of just hoping that if you move somewhere or change this or change that, that all of a sudden everything's going to be green and perfect and beautiful all the time. And I kind of fell in love with the idea of wanting to like backpack a little bit more, but trying to incorporate that in my like daily life. And in 2022, I through hiked the Spirit Hiking Trail solo. It's 310 miles from the Canadian border of Minnesota down to the Wisconsin border. And that's kind of where I started figuring things out a little bit more for myself. Allowed myself to have space to really tap into what my brain was doing instead of just going through the motions all the time and just kind of la di da. Um, and there was a lot of patience and moving meditation during that time. Being alone was really hard. That was a huge challenge for me. I realized that I'm pretty codependent. I like to stay connected and be connected and feel in touch with a community or other people, and learning to deal with just me on an everyday basis and what's going on was didn't realize how tough that would be. Um, I was on the trail for 22 days and things were going pretty good. And about day 7, I completely fell apart. And I was crying for like probably 6 hours straight, just pacing back and forth at camp. I got there and it was like the most beautiful spot. I was on this pond and there was all these it was mating time for a lot of birds, a lot of waterfowl, and all these loons and swans were landing and they were just making all of these mating calls. And it was the most beautiful thing. And I felt so fortunate that I got to experience it, but at the same time, I was so emotional and I was having such a hard time being alone. And I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, why am I out here? Like, why do I have to do this? Like, I don't have to do this. I could just like, get to a road and make a phone call and be like happy again, be with my partner again. I could be with people again. I could go eat the food I want to again. I can do these things that like I supposedly miss. Um, and I finally worked through that. I didn't sleep really at all that night. But I woke up feeling exhausted emotionally and physically. And all I wished for was to like see a person on the trail that day. And I was like, if I just see somebody, maybe everything will just feel better. Like I just need to, pass a human and feel connected. And I got up and ate my breakfast, put my pack on, and I started hiking and was just kind of reflecting what I was going through that night and why I was feeling that way. And I came across this guy, he was standing in the woods and he was by himself. And I came up on him and kind of startled him. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I didn't see you there. And I was like, it's okay. I was like, I'm so happy to see somebody. And he was like, oh, how long you been out here for? And I was like, well, it's like day 8. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm just day hiking. Do you mind if I hike with you for a while? And I was like, no, not at all. I would love it. I was actually hoping for that today. I had a really tough night. And um, he ended up hiking with me for over half the day. And he was a retired astronaut. And he had the coolest stories. And I instantly forgot about everything. Like all of my emotional worries and everything just like washed away. And he just hiked with me. And then once he reached the point where he was ready to turn around, he turned around. And he was a wild guy. Every mile he did like 50 push-ups.
My guy, I like it.
Yeah. He's like, I hope you don't mind, but this is just part of my regimen. And I was like, that's fine.
If you're friends with him on Instagram, please send him.
Yeah, well, he was amazing, and he called himself Roamer, and I was like, this is wild. I was like, how do I meet an astronaut in the middle of the woods in Minnesota? Um, but it just like, and I felt that emptiness again the second he turned around. And I was like, oh God, I'm alone again, like to do this all over. But it like built my confidence back up, was like, that's okay. That's okay to have those feelings. And it's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel emotional and all those things. And then I had this realization that you're really never alone. um, I had all those birds and I had these beautiful trees and all of this nature. Like every single piece of it is living. It's and it's just being. There's nothing more to it. It's just like existing without any questions. without anything. It just is here. And we get to be so fortunate to experience it. And that's when I realized that I don't have to feel alone because it's all living, it's all breathing, it's all connected. And that was pretty powerful, um, to just feel more connected to the outside world. And I always have, but that felt really like a pivotal moment, something I just haven't really forgotten. Um, and just all the people that I met along the way and kind of helped me daily get through, being out there, um, and being in the dark. I don't know why, but I'm pretty scared of the dark, especially camping by myself. And it's not the bears that maybe be out there, it's the people I think that I'm scared of. But um, that was tough. But I was so exhausted every night that it was actually pretty easy to fall asleep. So that was helpful. The physical body was ready.
Hmm.
But the emotions of just like, okay, I have to just get here to sleep. That's it. And if I don't get there to sleep, well, guess what? You can just curl up on the ground and sleep. Like, you don't have to set the tent up. You don't have to do these things. You don't have to get to this spot. Like, in reality, like you're in the woods. You can, if you need to roll over and go to bed. Like, that's okay. And I just need to eat the food that's on my back that I'm carrying for myself. And I just need to make sure I find a water source to fill my water up and I need to make sure I drink it. Like that regimen became so comforting and so simple and so it was just felt so natural. And I loved it. I really loved it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's a lot of time doing those through hikes. That takes up days, takes up a lot of resources to figure out, who's going to help you, what you're doing, how are you going to get out there, logistics. And ultra running generally doesn't take that long. It's like you can get a lot done in a short amount of time and you can get back home and still have those experiences, like all of those experiences, just in a condensed moment. And that's, I think, I noticed people I was hanging around with, friends that were getting into this a lot more, and it just kind of dawned on me. I was like, maybe this will just be an easier way to like get what I'm looking for in like a more accessible format instead of having to, like obviously I still want to do those things, but if I want more of it, how can I do that? And I think doing this, running became just like, how can I be out in nature, but not have to be out there forever, or like not have to go to the boundary waters for, long periods of time and uh, I mean, I love being detached, but sometimes like you want that feeling, but in a more accessible way. And I feel like running really does allow that,
Hmm. Yeah.
which has been, running's pretty new to me. I think it's been like 5 years of actually consistently somewhat running,
Hmm.
and it's changed a lot for me. Um, it's held me accountable. It's helped me clear my head and work through a lot of stuff, um, and still be outside, connect with people. I've connected with so many people. Community is just so important to me, and just connecting with people like yourself that, like that's wild. Somebody across the country that I haven't met in person, but like I'm so blessed to be able to like have this moment and have this connection
Me
and
too.
like-minded thoughts, it's like That's all I ever want is like to feel like you're belonging, I guess. Finding a place that you feel you can just be yourself, feel confident within it, even when you don't feel confident.
Mhm. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a few things that I relate to. Well, I relate to a lot of what you're saying, but you were talking about just getting to this point where you realize that you're not alone. And it's funny because so you and I were 2 hours apart. We started recording, or we linked up for me at 7 a.m. And I was like, oh well, maybe I'll just run afterwards. That's kind of early for me, especially with a baby and already getting like not a lot of sleep. But I just think it's a disservice to you to not give myself that time in the morning to do my run, because you were also mentioning like clarity and I don't know if you use that word exactly, but like that's what I find when I run. So I was like, well, it would be a disservice to Allie if I don't run. So I want to give myself that time so I can show up and have a genuine, organic conversation. Could it happen without running? Yeah, sure. I think so. But there's always a lesson to learn in movement. And so it just was a beautiful run for me. And that I mentioned it earlier, I operate out of my garage. And I could talk about that later, but it was just pouring down rain. It was really dark and it was just so beautiful. And I always, anytime I'm running, I think back to any other run that I've done or race or any long ultra effort. But I thought about this one in particular, the one where I wanted to quit and give up. And then I met that lady on the trail. When I when I crossed that finish line, I so little background. I didn't have a crew. I didn't have any pacers. I did the run solo, and I wanted to throw myself into an environment where there was no plan B. I wanted to do something that was so seemingly insurmountable where my only option was just keep going. And I realized you actually have more than one option. You can always quit. But I wanted to keep going because I've quit so many things in my life. So I kept going, but there were times where I'd be on the trail by myself. Like for a time, I was in the very back. I was the last person. So everyone was miles, even days ahead of me. And I'd be on the trail by myself for hours. And then I would see someone and it would just, my whole world just lit up. But when I got to the finish line, I heard so many people cheering and people clapping and like yelling for like like my name. And I just haven't really experienced that a whole lot in my life. And when I crossed that finish line, it just was like this. You can find the moment where I crossed the finish line. It's on my social media. But I just had this like childlike moment of excitement where like both of my feet came off the ground. I was like jumping for joy. And it was just so it was a beautiful childlike moment of joy cuz it's just so sweet knowing, like, I realized in that moment it took me days, but I signed up for this effort to do alone and then I realized I was never alone, you know. And that's the lesson is like whatever we're going through, we're actually, you know, we may be alone for a time, but there's always someone waiting for us or someone well, I would like to think there's someone waiting for us. There's always someone on the trail. You know, they may just be a little ahead or a little behind. You know, sometimes I think we have these moments, these opportunities where we can work through things on our own. But just the fact that we're not completely and entirely alone is just so comforting. And for me in this season of my life, like our our baby boy, he'll be 2 months this Friday. But it's just been a whirlwind. It's I don't even know what I mean by whirlwind. It's just been like mentally and emotionally, physically, even spiritually, just like it's just so challenging. And I've been trying so hard on my own just to like figure it out. Like deal with this sense of overwhelm of feeling like I won't be able to show up, you know, as a healthy dad for their whole lives or show up as a healthy husband for our whole marriage. Like I don't know, just like experiencing this spiritual attack of like worthlessness or something, or bringing up my my past with, you know, like my dad not being around, or you know, failed marriages in the past, like all this stuff that makes me experience this pressure. And I was with my daughter on Friday, and we went to the. It was very impromptu. She's like, "Hey, Dad, can we go to?" It's called My Fresh Basket. She's like, "Can we go to Fresh Basket and get a treat?" I was like, "Oh, let's just go home. Like we've got food at the house." And it just was a 1 second decision where I just cut across the lane. I was like, "No, we're going. We'll go." You know, like my daughter wants to do this, and we've got time, so let's make the time. You know, make a memory. And I walk in, and we go to this coffee shop, and I see a really good friend of mine. And I realized in that moment, I was like, I haven't made time to see this friend for, gosh, 4 months or so. And my heart just stung. I saw him, and I instantly felt emotional and gave him a big hug. And then just was reminded at that moment, like how isolated I made myself and how I tried so hard to do everything on my own. But I ended up meeting with him and a group of friends that we all work out 7 o'clock Saturdays, and we run this hill called Doomsday in town, and it's just so cool. It's like a iconic hill in the city, and it's along the river. It's along this busy road, and people see, and it you know, we get honks and all that stuff. But it's just a bunch of guys that, you know, we love our wives, we love our kids, we love each other. We're not afraid to hurt together. We're not afraid to get after it together, and we do. But it was just so good, like being with those guys. And then I was reminded that, like, sometimes I can be isolated and not even know it. And my friends, just talking with them, they're, you know, their dads too, and they're like, "Yeah, I get it. Like it's hard," and you know, just encouraging me, like knowing that my feelings, my thoughts are not the only ones that have ever been had. And just knowing, like, or I guess coming to this realization, the pressure that I'm feeling is because I care. And that's a good feeling. That gives me comfort knowing, oh, okay, I actually care about my wife. I care about my kids. I'm going to, you know, keep this, you know, I think of this pressure as a burden. And I like to think of it that way, because I think back to all the training that I've gone through to, you know, be in my profession. And we carry a very heavy burden, you know, through remote areas and for days at a time. And it's heavy. It's a heavy burden. And I think about the burden that we're given. We have physically or metaphorically. And I could take a 45-pound pack, tie a rope to it, and drag it through the woods. Well, the weight is the same, but the way that I carry it, it's going to be a lot more uncomfortable. Or, for you, in thinking about the pack that you carried for a few weeks doing that through hike, if I would imagine that if you didn't manage that weight appropriately, it would be uncomfortable. But if we take the weight or the burden that we're blessed with and we redistribute it and we carry it in a way that we can manage, we can go a lot further and it's more comfortable. So that's kind of the lesson that I've learned, and that's given me peace, is knowing this burden that I have right now as a dad to a new child. It's a good one and it's healthy. And to me, like, as long I'm not hurting myself, I'm not hurting anybody else. Like, this burden's okay. So
Yeah, that's a really beautiful lesson.
yeah, thank you. And I learn a lot of these things by just showing up for myself. And fortunately, my wife is a rock star, and she knows how much I need to train. Like, it's just so important. It's foundational to me and my wellness. Yeah, I feel so blessed because we moved a month ago, and I didn't know that our home, the garage door, and the front door, it faces due east. So whenever I'm training, it's as the sun's coming up. So now I get to train in my garage as the sun's coming up, and I get the sun in my face for about an hour in the morning, and then in the evening, backyard, we get to go watch the sunset every day. And
That's
it's
so
just like,
nice.
oh my gosh, it feeds my soul. I didn't know that. It's just such a hidden blessing. But again, like, my faith, that's just God in the details for me, and knowing like what my soul needs, and giving that to me, because I miss trails. I do. I miss being out in trails in nature for long periods of time. But there was a time in my previous marriage where I was 6 miles out on a run, and I got a phone call asking, "Where are you? I need you." And I was like, "I can't. I'm 6 miles out. I can't get to you right now." And that just did something to me. And for my family, I just never want to be 6 miles out again, unless we're doing a race or something that's like planned.
Scheduled.
Yeah. So now I invested into this assault runner treadmill, and it just has added value to my life I didn't know I needed. But yeah,
Those are really tough.
they are. Yeah, they are. Thanks for recognizing that.
Yeah, that's crazy. You should be
Yeah.
very proud of that work.
Thanks. Well, gosh, this has been such a sweet time of not just conversation, but reflection as well. And, we've got to share our stories with one another, and we got to share a little bit about like where we're going. And you've got a big event coming up right now. And I hope that it adds value to your life. And I hope, I just hope that you learn something about yourself and your capabilities, and you grow in community with others. And we just keep moving forward. As we transition to ending, I don't like to say ending the conversation, because we'll continue to keep in touch. But as we wrap up this conversation, if you can think of any words of encouragement that you have for people who are listening, and they're in a tough spot, and they're experiencing maybe like I was sharing for me in my journey sense of hopelessness or despair, or for you maybe having a desire for community or a connection with people. Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Well, what worked for me was just getting back in touch with the outside world, um, falling back in love with like my child self. What I used to do when I was a kid would play outside for endless hours. Didn't think about anything else except for, just being out there. And if it was with a friend or just with myself and my imagination, and it's just like that's blissful. Those are blissful moments that I can remember. And now, as an adult, um, finding ways to be outside and being connected to the world instead of like our material world um, has just helped me be more connected with other people as well. Finding ways to kind of open up conversations through the things that I do in the outdoors, to either spike a conversation or maybe find enlightenment within that topic. But I think it just brings joy, is being outside, and it's for mental health as well. Just having that green space or just space outdoors, um, even if it's sitting outside for 30 minutes here and there, or taking a break, while you're working, or just any way that you can be out there, listen to the birds, watch the squirrels.
Mm-hmm.
um, that simplicity, I would say, is just mentally healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I would recommend the same encouragement. Um, yeah, it means so much to me when I could watch the sun come up and the sunset. I think it's just a lesson in itself. There is light from darkness and hope when the sun comes up. And I also think that as the sun is setting, it's a time of reflection on the ways that we are blessed for the time that we had, and gearing up for rest. And I mean, for 34 years, the sun has come up, you know. So even though I don't know what tomorrow holds, for the time I've been living, the sun has still come up. So yeah, but as the sun sets, like those are sometimes scary times for me because I'm like, oh, it's about to get dark,
Yeah,
and when it's dark,
what is up with that? Why is the dark so
I
tough?
I don't know. It's just it's a void. It's empty. It's nothing. I don't know. It's just
Uh,
like it's weird because like my darkest thoughts have been in darkest times.
yeah, it's when the nighttime comes, like all of my little tiny demons come out, and it's
Oh
just
yeah,
like, where'd that come from?
yeah, yeah. It's true. Me too. And then also like those were some really amazing lessons I've been like learned or um forged, I guess. Um yeah, I'm working on something right now and I'll share it. I don't like to keep anything from anybody, but I'm a few hours from Snoqualmie, Washington, and in Snoqualmie there's a non-serviceable tunnel. It's part of the state parks trail system. It's part of the Palouse to Cascade Falls State Park trail, and there's a 2.2 mile tunnel.
Oh
And I
my
heard
gosh,
about.
it's just like pitch dark.
Oh yeah, You should check it out sometime, please.
Yeah, what is it?
So it's called Snoqualmie Tunnel. And there's essentially like very little elevation gain and loss. So when you enter this tunnel, you can see the light at the other end. And I've been working on getting a permit so that we can do a phase 1 ultra there. And the first year I got denied. This year they're working on it right now. But the idea, it's a 6-hour staged ultra. And I just want people to get inside that tunnel and keep keep chasing light, you know. So it'll be a wild ride if it goes through. But
Yeah, please keep me
yeah,
posted.
I will. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. So when I was on my through hike, there is a section on this gravel trail, and
Mm.
there's a tunnel, and it's been there for forever, for a very long time, and I had never seen it before, and it was, cold, damp, and dark, and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see where it really went, and I was so freaked out. It took me a few tries
Mm-hmm.
to get in the tunnel. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's massive, it's not like you're crawling through it. Like it's huge, like a train could fit through it.
Yeah.
And I was just so uncomfortable. I was like, oh man, I was like, what if somebody's in there? Or like, what if something happens? Like this is, you can't see under there.
Mm.
All of those thoughts, no reason for it, like it's daylight outside. And I ran
Mm-hmm.
through the tunnel with my back on because I was so freaked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get it. I do. I drove out there with my wife because we just heard about it and I wanted to check it out. And right when I got into the tunnel, like you're saying, is damp, dark. Like it was this moment for me where it was one of two things were going to happen: peace or panic. And I experienced both at the same time, but I felt like I needed to choose. What do I want to lean into? So I wanted to lean into experiencing this peace. I felt like I needed to kind of create the peace. I was like, well, I'm in this dark, cold place, but I can see light at the other end. I can see it. And I know it's a ways. But if I keep moving forward and I chase it, I can find it and it'll come. And when you get out of that tunnel, because you're on the state park trail, like it is just, it's so beautiful. You exit the west side of the tunnel and there's a beautiful waterfall, beautiful trails, and you just hear all these birds and it's so sweet. And when you were talking earlier about ultras relatively being pretty short, all things considering, it's true. It's like a day of effort. But if I can stage a 6-hour event going into darkness and coming out and experiencing beautiful light at the other end for a few hours, like you can have a beautiful dinner with your family and friends afterwards and talk about like what you learned. Like that's what I want to happen. It'd be so cool. But yeah, like in those dark spaces, sometimes it feels like it's never going to end, but
Yeah,
that's
the
why I love
darkness seems like it lasts a lot longer than the daytime.
yeah, that's why I like to say like the sun has always come up, because it's true. I'm like, well, shoot, like even in those dark moments, dark nights, especially, with our baby, waking up multiple nights to feed him and take care of him. It's in those dark spaces where like my mind can be really rattled, but also like that's where my most beautiful lessons are learned too. It's super sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that yin and the yang.
Mm, yeah. Well, I got one more question for you before we wrap up our time together. And this is something I like to ask everyone who jumps on the podcast. There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious when you hear of phase 1, what does phase one mean to you in your soul?
I would say that when I first think about it, it's kind of when you're on when you're on a long adventure, there's many phases. And kind of phase one is like the beginning, how it starts, how it feels, like what you show up as, um, who you are in that, when you first stand on the line, when you first show up, when you first take that first step. I can remember getting dropped off in the middle of the woods at the Canadian border and getting out of the car, being like, see ya. And just looking into the woods like, man, I hope I know what I'm doing and I hope I know where I'm going because now I have no option. But like that to me is phase one. Like, this is just the start and see where it goes.
Love it. I'm glad that means something to you. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and hitting play on life and having a conversation. I hope that whoever's listening, that this has added value to your life and encouragement. Yeah, that's what we're here for. So we're just people trying to live and do our best with what we have to work with. So until next time, everybody, peace, love, keep it real. See ya.